Helen Zille has just revealed how she expects to be elected Joburg mayor in the upcoming elections. Let's find out. So before we jump into the analysis of how the DA might win the next election, I thought it might be helpful to watch this recent clip of Helen being interviewed on Biz News. And here she explains exactly how she expects the DA to win the election. But before we continue with the video, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel? It's completely free, and all you've got to do is click on the subscribe button at the bottom left corner of this video. Now let's proceed.
An election, do you do so with a strong or confidence that you will win? You personally, Helen Zille.
Well, you certainly try to win. You don't go in to lose. And we've announced our mayoral candidates a year ahead so that they can go in and fight for a full year, visit every ward, speak to every residents' association they can get the contact details of, speak to every civil society organization, go around the city, region by region, ward by ward, listening to people primarily and taking advice on board, finalizing the plan and then implementing the plan. And that is what I'm doing right now. It's an enormous challenge. I've just been working all day today. It's a Sunday. I had long meetings, very productive meetings in region F1 and F2, which are some of the most challenging parts of the city. And I really learned a lot.
So how are you going to win? You clearly you on the ground, you're seeing people, but there's got to be something more to take you from 71 seats to 136, or at least, if not 136, then close enough with your allies to get to 136.
Well, it's very simple if you look at the numbers, but it's very difficult to do in practice. In the last municipal election in 2021, the DA got 26%. If every single person who voted DA then brings just one other person to the polls who did not vote DA then, we get an overall majority. Just one more, each person who voted DA. That can't be too hard. Many people in the leafy suburbs had been taken in by Herman Mashaba and voted for him last time. I don't think many are going to do so this time. That's one mechanism.
So I just want to explain before we continue that, yes, I understand the concept that Helen's referring to, but I don't think it's quite as easy to do as she suggests, because ultimately what happens a lot of the time is people live in silos, and generally you're friends with people who are of a similar background to you or live in a similar area. And if we take a look at the election map, which we will do a little bit later, we see that generally speaking, you've got a very large clump of DA wards and then a very large clump of ANC wards. And the DA wards are really clustered together, as are the ANC wards. So we can't really take that approach. But I want you to pay extra special attention to what Helen is going to explain next, because this is actually going to prove why she's so confident that the DA will win.
But the most important mechanism is the turnout mechanism. In the last election, there was a 47% average turnout. Now that's pathetic. And if we had simply pushed up our turnout to just 57% in the DA strongholds, we would have got 35 more seats. 35 more seats if we just pushed up our turnout 10% to a level which is still pretty low at 57%, I think. Now, there's even a clearer method. If we can push our turnout out to 70%, then we get 119 seats, and then we're cooking with gas. But why don't people turn out in the election? I mean, we do a lot of polling, as you know, Alec. And when we do polling, we always ask the voter intention and whether they will turn out on election day. And that is where the ANC always soars ahead. Will you turn out on election day? The ANC supporters are determined to turn out on election day. For some reason, when we factor turnout intention into the statistics, the DA vote goes backwards. And I've been trying to work this out for a long time. And as I say, I've been talking to many people in this while that I've been in Johannesburg. And I think I've hit on the reason. When I speak to people and say, why don't you go out and vote? They say to me, well, because we live in a safe DA ward and our councillor will win anyway. And then I say to them, you don't understand how the voting system works. In a local government election, you have 2 votes.
So just before Helen continues, pay extra attention to how the ward vote works, all right? Because that is actually going to be key to our analysis.
Let that sink in. You have 2 votes, one for the ward and the other for the proportional list. So if you don't rock up and your councillor wins anyway, you haven't voted on the proportional list. So we've lost that vote. But what people specifically don't know is that your ward vote counts twice. Now let me explain that to you. Johannesburg is divided into a whole lot of wards. Different councillors from different parties stand in all the wards, and the one that comes first in the ward contestation becomes the ward councillor. Then, because you've got a proportional system, you also vote for the list. And the list votes are added together with the ward votes to get the total proportion for each party. So, after the ward votes are counted and parties have their different councillors that win in that ward in position, those ward votes are taken again and are added to the PR votes to get the total proportion. So every person who doesn't vote, because they believe their ward councillor is going to win anyway, so they don't have to, actually is robbing us of 3 votes. So every person who doesn't vote robs us of 3 votes. That's the only number they have to remember. And if we could push the DA turnout up to 70%, we're really off to the races. And that's what we have to try and do. We will obviously also work very hard on converting voters of other parties that you do in every single election campaign. So we're going to work very hard on that. But if DA voters are too apathetic to come out because they think their ward councillor is going to win again anyway, then they clearly don't understand the system. When you vote for your ward councillor, that is 1 vote. When you vote for the list, that is the 2nd vote. Then all the ward votes are added together to the list votes, and then the different parties' proportions are worked out, and then the council is topped up so that the final tally is proportional to all the votes that were cast. And I can only explain it that way. People must understand that when they go to the polls, they have 2 votes, and those 2 votes end up giving us 3 votes.
All right. So as we can tell by what Helen explained, there are 2 ballots that you have to look out for. You're voting on the PR ballot and then the ward ballot. Now, the reason why I want us to zone in on the ward ballot is because this could be key to the DA's victory. So if we take a look at some of the recent by-election results, for those who might not be familiar, the by-elections are for voting in a ward councillor. The by-elections don't work in the same way as a national election, where the outcome depends on the proportion of the vote that everyone gets. When it comes to voting in a ward councillor, it's only the biggest party that wins. It's winner takes all. And this could work in the DA's favour, because even if the DA gets less than 50% in a certain ward, just by being the biggest party, they can come away with the victory. So those of you who are interested in seeing how this works, be sure to check out my recent by-election video, the link to which is right above. And in that video, I actually explained how Action SA were able to win a ward from the ANC in the Northwest Province. And what was really miraculous is that they beat the ANC by just 2 votes. Yet even by winning with just 2 votes and getting far short of 50% of the vote, they won the ward and the ANC went home with nothing. Now, by looking at the election data in the city of Johannesburg, we can see just why the ward ballot is able to push the DA over the victory line. All right, so these are the results of the 2021 municipal elections. And if we take a look over here, we see that the DA came narrowly behind the ANC. But if we look at the seat allocations, we see that the DA got a lot more seats on the ward than the list ballot. They got 43 seats from the wards, meaning that they won 43 wards outright. Whereas in the PR list, they only got 28 seats. And there's a very good reason for this. So over here, we have a map of the city of Johannesburg in the 2021 municipal election. Now, as we can see, the wards that the DA won are all pretty closely clustered together, as are the wards that the ANC won. But what's really interesting is that this is the view of the PR results. And if we switch to the ward results, look how much more solid the blue of the DA becomes. And the more solid that the blue becomes, the higher their levels of support, according to this map. Now, the reason for the DA's success on the ward level is twofold. On one hand, it's this winner-takes-all situation, because what we need to remember is that parties such as Action SA took votes from the DA, but they took a much larger chunk out of the ANC, as did the Patriotic Alliance, funnily enough, and the EFF. And so because of that, the DA was able to retain more of its voter base and end up winning wards, because even if they didn't get over 50% of the vote, they still managed to get just enough to win the ward. And this seems like something that will work in their favor even more in the upcoming election, because what's crucial to remember is that the MK party didn't exist in 2021. They do now. Second of all, Action SA still has a presence in Johannesburg, but it seems that while most of the former DA voters who went to Action SA have drifted back to the DA, the voters who Action SA have retained seem to be more of the former ANC voters who live in townships and areas such as Soweto, and so this might also help the DA. The second reason why I say that the ward ballot is where the DA might win quite big is because a lot of people who do follow local politics and are very concerned about their neighborhoods have relationships with their ward councillors. Now, in many of the suburbs where the DA has won the wards, these are wards that the DA has won for years, and so their ward councillors have very good relationships with the residents in that ward. And so many of these residents might decide that even if they are not DA supporters, they'll still vote for the DA in that ward because they like their ward councillors. And so what we see here is a situation where the DA could surge ahead in Johannesburg. Firstly, because the ANC is on a natural, inevitable decline, where the MK Party, Patriotic Alliance, and others seem to be eating into their voter base. And the second reason being that the ward ballot works strongly in their favor. Thanks very much for tuning into this video. If you found it insightful, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.